Ladies and gentlemen, welcome everyone to episode 196 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pentalaresco. I write stuff and podcast too. Today, my guest is Leah Patrick, part 1 of 2, another Aurora finalist, short story writer. She's awesome and fun. We'll get to that in a second. First, since I am recording this in Windsor, Ontario, and I am currently visiting my other grandmother currently in Windsor, Ontario, I thought it'd be fun to have her on the show. So say hi, Alma.
Hi.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, I know you can't see this right now. She's got this look on her face right now that says, oh, what the hell is he going to ask me now? And she's actually just blushed. It's hilarious to watch. My grandmother is one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. I think one of my favorite little stories. So this is a story you may not be aware of. When she came to visit us in Calgary, right? So what was your favorite song when me and Rachel and
you my sunshine, my only sunshine.
I was talking about when Rachel and I were on the road last time in Calgary.
Oh, that one. I forgot.
Yeah.
But I know we were singing like crazy.
The Barbie Girl song.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so here is my grandmother just nodding along as we're going, I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. Because my sister would turn that one on, and the other one was Avril Lavigne's Girlfriend. All right? So here's this woman coming to visit her grandchildren, having the time of her life in the Banff Mountains. Yes. And probably having a few cocktails along the way. She's just pointing and nodding. She's trying not to incriminate herself too much.
That's right.
That's right. So,
right.
Is everything good?
Everything is very good.
That's right.
Yes.
So, besides some obvious things, right? What like at this point? I mean, you kind of have you're doing fairly well for yourself. You're having a relatively life. So besides that, what do you most enjoy doing in your day? You should. I can't even comment. My
Can't say it.
I can't say it. I get.
You asked.
It's okay.
Phew, it's hot in here.
That's right. My grandmother, she's still a player after all these years.
Yeah, see? I'm not dead.
No, far from it.
Right.
So is there anything you'd like to say to my audience? Anything you want.
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I really don't know.
You really don't know? Don't want to say hello? You want?
So I always want to say hello to everybody.
Yes. So say hello.
Hello.
There you go.
In the steamy Hong Kong night, something waits to breed. Kiss of the Cockroach Queen. The new pulp mythology book from Jim Jackson. Old-style pulp and Chinese mythology explode on the seedy streets of Hong Kong, and only one man can stop it. But he may not want to. Kiss of the Cockroach Queen. Available September 27th on Amazon. For more information, go to reallygoodstory.com. Kiss of the Cockroach Queen.
So I am turning this on. I think I should ask this real quickly because I know you for who you actually are. Your professional name.
Yes. But is this actually Lee needs some press?
Yes.
Sandy doesn't.
Yes.
Not so much.
No, I got you. So
Lee F. Patrick.
Lee F. Patrick. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to officially start the interview right here.
Yeah.
So I've turned the recorder on. If you have anything incriminating you'd like to say, make it good.
Ooh, incriminating.
I know.
Hi, I'm Lee. I'm a writer. Oh. Actually, I've been writing for a very long time. I got really serious about it a couple of years ago and said, dang it, I am going to try and get some of this stuff off my hard drive because when you look at the number of files and books and series and whatnot, you go, I want to make this, I want to share it with other people, and part of the problem is, of course, for me, is finishing things before the next idea comes and hits. So I might have a dream, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, that would, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're going, okay, subconscious, what the heck are you trying to tell me here? Or is this just random stuff? And you go, okay, well, who are these people? What is going on here? Why are they doing what they're doing? The journalism W's. Who, what, when, where, why. But, so I go, okay, well, there's, this could happen. These could be the people. And then after a while it was, okay, what universe, what storylines does this fit into? Because sometimes you go, okay, this is kind of the same world as this other one. So, okay, well, do these people know each other and whatnot? And then you go, well, can I stick them together? Sometimes yes, sometimes okay, it's another world. I don't tend to write stuff on Earth, although I do have a series that is set on Earth, but it's at the stage of, oh yeah, this would be a really neat part to write in this. So, but a lot of them are some of my science fiction. I'm putting together in one universe, because really once you've invented a way of traveling quickly through space, you kind of want to keep using it and not having to invent yet another way of traveling through space.
That's a really interesting way to see. For me, I always try to figure out what I'm trying to say. That's the very first thing, and then the story I build, right, reflects it. Now, I'm a very silly individual, as you well know, so I tend to get sillier as time goes on. Yeah. But the initial, the foundation of my story is always a concept that's or something I find very profound to myself. Something that I've learned, something that I've discovered, something that I feel that's, in my opinion anyway, worth saying. And then everything else comes, whether it's unicorns that fart rainbows, or zombie mobsters, or what I'm currently doing, which is a race inside a star. I've thought the idea is that's really neat. Why would that happen, right? And then I'm like, okay, ba-dum, and then it's like, okay, I know what I need to say. Now I can write the story in a way that actually makes. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I generally get theme absolutely last, and it's usually somebody else who tells me what the theme is.
Interesting.
I'm rewriting a story at the moment for actually a British anthology, and the original one was written, sort of Arthurian, but it also had the issue of my Welsh heritage, and the fact that before Christianity came to Britain, they were doing a lot of other really neat things, and the folklore and things like that, and how it's a really, really bad idea to chase a white animal at Samhain. Mm-hmm. And I had somebody, I'd sort of messed around with the story, and it hadn't gotten into one anthology, and went, oh, bother. Actually, it wasn't quite bother, but, family show. So I got somebody to reread it, and that person went, oh, well, this is your theme, and this, it's a really great story, but you got to rewrite it completely. And I was like, no. I do? Yeah, because of this and this, and I was like, oh yeah, so I could see from that critique how to make it a lot better.
So I'm gonna take a venture here. For you, writing starts from a very cerebral place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then You know how a lot of people say they do the first draft and then have to cut a lot of words? I keep having to add words. So I'll do, it's not quite an outline, but it's sort of, and a lot of this also does take place in my head. I like taking walks.
Yes.
Because then I'm away from distraction. Like, oh, I should, look at Facebook. Oh, damn, I got to do the dishes. Things like that. I can just go, well, sort of here's the character. Here's sort of the situation. What do they? I go through the what do they want?
Yeah.
Which does sort of lend itself to the idea of theme, but a lot of it is, like I say, it's more, what kind of trouble can they get into in the advance, like in Alter Egos with the novel I did put out last year. Barrett is both a financial analyst and an assassin, which is a lot of fun. Because the dichotomy, people go, what? Oh, that sounds interesting.
Oddly, I can see the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a really simple one to me.
But trying to think of, okay, I've got to, in order to have his story progress, there have to be both analyst jobs and assassin jobs. And I'm like, okay, how can I also then show the reader that Barrett is a really good and moral person, despite the fact that he kills people for a living? It's kind of the Robin Hood.
I get no. I just the way you said that just cracked me up. It's like,
Well,
okay, he kills people, but he's a more. No, I know.
He is a good Justice. His assassin name is Justice.
Yeah.
Because he provides justice for the people that have been denied it.
Interesting.
Like in one, the early ones, it's mentioned actually in chapter 1, but Barrett can't do it because he's having other issues. Is a rich pedophile who has been able to intimidate and buy off juries, and nobody can touch him.
Yeah.
He's got the police on side because, oh, well, they're just saying that because I'm rich and they want money. So he's got the pull to keep any of this from actually hitting court. But it's the families of the affected children go, there's no other way we can get justice for our kids. No way we can stop any other kid from having this happen to them. So they hire him, and it's a it's a tragic accident because he was there in his hot tub and he'd had, maybe a little too much to drink, and he just fell asleep and sunk under and drowned. Isn't that terrible?
Absolutely. I'm trying to keep a straight face, ladies and gentlemen. I'm failing miserably.
But I mean, that shows he and his mentor, Carrot, who's the older man who trained him, it shows their dedication to justice.
So honestly, this kind of sounds to me like it's almost in one sense like a very old pulp concept. Very old pulp concept. It's almost like
he's the Cape Crusader, but nowhere near as insane as Bruce Wayne is.
Or I was actually thinking The Shadow.
Shadow.
Yeah, actually, The Shadow I thought was actually the right. Batman in himself is a very Batman is a super elastic concept. Like he can be anything. Right, but this
he's got some screws definitely loose.
Absolutely. Well, he dresses up as a bat to scare people. I mean, seriously, that's what he does. That takes a certain.
Yeah. That's a whole nother topic. Is the insanity of superheroes.
Oh, come on! Seriously, they wear tights and they fight crime in tights. I mean, how strange? I mean, that's not insane.
Hey, one of my favorite movies is Men in Tights.
Yes.
The Robin Hood one.
That movie.
It's an old one, but hey, it's a good one.
Patrick Stewart's role in that. I became. See, I did not realize how insane Patrick Stewart actually was until I saw that movie. And then I saw that movie, and I'm like, and then you talk, like, then I see conversations with him afterwards. I'm like, you are batshit crazy, but in like the best possible way, right?
And as an actor, Patrick Stewart has to be able to submerge himself into the various characters and to give them life. And
Yes.
as a writer and author, it's up to me to get inside the characters' heads and bring them to life. And sometimes, when you've got somebody who's batshit crazy, it's like, okay, this is hard.
Well, okay.
Fortunately, the idea of there's another case in Alter Egos. They're hunting for a fellow they've called the steak knife mugger, and he is a serial killer who gets paid for it. But they're trying to find him because they've actually been hired by the survivors of his various victims to find this guy. And writing from his point of view, the steak knife muggers, that was really weird. And
Weird.
it was a dark place. It's like, no, okay, I wrote his story, and it was like, okay, now I need to do something else. Bunnies and unicorns farting rainbows.
No, because also bad guys are a lot of fun. Sometimes because it's like, so you get to say and do things with those characters you can't normally do, and that is, in some ways, it's a heck of a release. However, the flip side is, this is also true, by the way, with characters you don't like. I find this is true with characters you don't like. The flip side is, you don't like. There's some part about that particular character you just don't like, because if you make him too likable, he's not a villain anymore. He can be an anti-hero, and there are places for that in some stories, but he's not a villain anymore at that point, all right? And while you want to have a little bit of gray area, you don't want to have too much. You want to have like some roles have to be defined, and so what tends to happen is, this for me, I write it, I'm enjoying it at first, especially if the villain's doing something like that, like really fun. It's like, okay, this is cool, but at the end of that, you're like, okay, I need to write something else now, because if I don't, I'm going to keep going into this headspace, and it's depressing, actually. It's actually the word I'm looking for there is, it's a very depressing thing. C.S. Lewis wrote the Screwtape Letters, right? That was, I could see it. He had fun at first, and you can literally watch as it progresses.
As he goes down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, you literally watch. I could tell why, like, Dean's like, I'm done. I'm not doing that ever again. I'm like, I understand. I tried writing a character. I'm writing a noir story of a character I didn't like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm gonna finish that story. I like it. I like the world, and I know where it ends. And I might go back to that to finish the story, but I don't know if I want to do another one. I really don't like this guy. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like the steak knife mugger writing his story. I wanted to make it very clear that he was a serial killer. He enjoyed death. But then he also will have a transformation that is kind of odd, but it's like, okay, let's see what happens here. And does he ever recover from his alter ego? Yeah. Because he is very cranky about things just before that happens. Well, but again, it's having those, what is that villain's motivation? Okay, he's a serial killer, but again, in modern times we've had Dexter, who is really we have two very big wolfies behind us.
We do. They wanted to say
Huskies. They are very large.
They are very large, and they wanted to say hi. Yeah. They didn't want to say hi. So hi, Mr. Husky, number one and number two.
Yeah, but their story has to be believable. You can't have Ming the Merciless is evil just because he's evil.
Well,
you get the feeling that he's going, oh yes, he's got to have some sociopathic issues.
Even Hitler loved his dog. Like
And he was a wonderful painter. I've seen some of his painters. He's, he had those good qualities, but what he did.
Well, here's how I look at it. Right. This is where I go back to with like a gray area.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing about a villain is the villain has to believe on some level they are right.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Now they can be best part is when they are a little bit right, because when they are a little bit right, what happens is it gives the audience a question. Right? Now if you're an anti-hero, this is the difference between an anti-hero and a villain. If you're an anti-hero, right, the gray area, the anti-hero acknowledges their actions aren't necessarily the right actions sometimes, but they're doing it because of a lack of a lack of an alternative, which an anti-hero story does that very well.
Yeah.
A villain doesn't necessarily see that they're wrong, doesn't want to change on some fundamental level, and that's really the big difference.
Yeah, they are satisfied with what they're doing.
Yeah.
No matter what happens.
Exactly. And there's a comfort that they know who they are, but also the tragedy of most villains is that they never can. They can only change to an nth degree, and that's it. And they're stuck, right?
Yeah.
Because if you change them beyond that, they're not villains anymore.
Yeah. In a sense, both Barrett and Carrot are villains because they are killing people, but they are very sure before they do that act that there is no other way to deal with these people, because they have been. They also send tips in to honest policemen, saying, "Hi, if you go to this particular place and knock on the door with prejudice, you're going to find some really interesting stuff." And
they sound more like anti-heroes.
But they're also, that's their thing, is they're trying to bring justice. Because Barrett started learning about being an assassin when he was 18.
Why? Or is that part of the story?
That's part of the story. But he and Carrot actually met at a summer camp he was at.
Okay.
And Carrot was retired from the Army as a sniper, because that was what he did in the Army. And they bonded back then, and there was something I've got to write their meeting. That's going to be another story, and to show how they bonded, and the fact, when Carrot approached him about, hey, there's some really bad people out here, would you like to help me take care of them? Why Barrett says yes. Barrett has a really terrible relationship with his father in the beginning, because his dad had been told, that's the baby of the family, and you've got to make sure that he grows up strong too. Otherwise, he's just going to be, the whiny baby, and this is, terrible. You've got to make him, strong, toughen him up. As a result, Barrett was basically ignored, and, with the occasional, you're not good enough type of thing. So he doesn't have a real father figure, and Carrot takes that place, which is part of what happens to him.
Huh. Sounds like.
But yeah, it's. I know, lots of hair. A lot. One of the actual bonuses, I think, to taking so long to write the story is you can go, okay, yeah, I've gotten this far, and then you go, I'm not quite sure what happens next, and you go, oh, wait a minute, there's this, so you have to go back and rewrite part one. And to bring in these things.
I've evolved my style over the years, and I have figured out how to, because I have a bunch of stories in my head all the time, right? We all do. but I also find myself like I've learned how to go to like some stories. Okay, you're in the back seat of the car. I will get to you, probably, right? But right now, this is the story I need to tell, and I tell that story. Whether it's I have 3 I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
One's a small project in terms of writing. One's a medium-sized project, and then there's the one you see right here, which is going to be, I think, a relatively big one, but how big I'm not 100% sure at this moment in time. And so what I tend to do is, okay, because I have this podcast thing I'm doing as well, I go, okay, so this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. The rest of you, shh. I'm hearing you, but shh. Right? And because I recognize the fact that for me that I only have so much time. Yeah, and because I only have so much time.
24 hours in the day, 7 days in a week.
Yes. And however long my lifespan may be, right? Which is an unknown quantity. So I look at it kind of like, if I don't do this now, this way, they will stay on my hard drive in my head for years and years and years to come. And I'm at that point where I'm like, well, I want to tell all of the stories I can and get as many of them out there as I possibly can in as many different mediums as I possibly can. So I've learned this, I've kind of mastered this art of discipline. I go like, okay, this one, these are cool. The rest of you, shh. And when one's done, I'm like, okay, you. And I grab it, I chug it to the forefront, and then if it needs some time to percolate, I'll percolate while I finish the other 2. And then, or if it's like there's one story in my head in particular I'm not ready to tell, and I know I'm not ready to tell, but I've been it'll be like, it probably will be my quote unquote magnum opus for when I get to it. So it's like, nope, that can go back until this is.
Or if you had a thought relating to that, you sort of open up the file and go, here's some stuff that
Yeah.
And then you close it.
Yeah, it's just I let it. Actually, I don't do a lot of that on my computer. I find I do my drafts tentatively on Notebook first, because I find that what I'm doing is I'm not doing a draft. I'm doing 1.5 drafts, because what I'm doing is when I finish this one I go like, okay, this might be crap, but I'm already now when I'm typing it up, I'm doing some editing.
Yeah.
It's not a full edit, mind you, but it's like, okay, this works, this sucks, this works, and that's literally what it is, right? Because you know where your habits kind of get in the way of a good story, right? And that's what I do. So then by the time I'm done, like draft 1, it's like 1.5, maybe 1.75, right? And then draft 2 is now like draft 3, because now it's like, okay, I've done a lot of the really crappy stuff early. I've got rid of that. Now, do I need to add? Do I need to subtract? And I found that now as I'm getting more into this, I'm actually cutting. I'm cutting more. I've learned that streamlining, how to streamline. Like, what's the important part of this?
Mm-hmm.
That. Yeah.
Well, I actually have a lot of short stories on my hard drive, because when I started writing in the early to mid 80s, the whole thing was you have to write short stories before you write novels.
Mm-hmm.
There was the big thing. So I've got a whack of short stories, and what I've been trying to do is to get them out, to get the name out, because that's a big thing, is people have to know who you are. One of the things that I submitted last year was a poem to Polar Borealis, which made it onto the Aurora ballot. Yay!
High five!
For poetry, so
yes.
That was like. And I had the novel Alter Egos out. I had several short stories out last year, and now I got 2 into the In Places Between contest this year. The contest. So it was like, okay. And then one of the judges for that said, one of these stories might do for an anthology that I know somebody's working on. And so here's the critique, so rewrite it. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay. So,
But
again, that sort of gets the name known, and then people go, oh well, here you've got this Facebook page, and I should like that, and oh, what else have you written, type of thing. So that
it's strange. Like for me, it has been, my podcast has blown up in a very, very weird way, because so right after the Aurora nomination for me, I got to do Sweet and Sultry Summer with MJ and Colette. So between both of those, my numbers spiked, right? And they haven't really. So I used to get, prior to the award, 50 to 100 plays, downloads a week, closer to around 70, 80 on average. But I have some high weeks, some low weeks. But
it might depend on who that person was.
Actually, I have found like the lesser well known, actually the more hits I generally get, which is a really strange dichotomy. The reason being is because when they're well known, they don't advertise as much, right? So you're you
do big name and people go,
Oh, sometimes.
Well, you're gonna get some,
but yeah.
For somebody like me.
You're trying to get your name right.
I get the, it's going to be out on this day, so I'm going to really go. Oh, people.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is what's happened with me is now the romantic writing community knows who I am, doing the Sultry Summer thing. So I've gotten a lot of support because I apparently did a good job. And
the romance is such a big chunk. Of what books come out, where they, I was reading from Kobo that romance is probably one of the best sellers in.
No, it's a huge chunk. It's a huge chunk of the market.
So I actually tried to write a romance, and I've read some when I was a kid. I went through an entire box of Harlequins in the summer, and it didn't even take all summer. I read a lot. But it actually turned into a horse and his boy story.
Okay.
There's the love interest, but it's not what I think of as a proper romance.
Yes.
And that's now a novella.
Yeah. Well, no, it's so.
But yeah.
Honestly, I after talking to quite a few of them, I came to a very, really good conclusion, because here's the thing. Most of us have the imagination to do a romance.
Yeah.
Most of us do. To do that well, though, that is another thing entirely. And you guys, I mean, they don't get the respect they deserve when it comes to the fact that, okay, they hit a certain niche, a certain audience. It's not niches. They hit the mainstream. Actually, is what they do. They hit a wide.
There's a lot of people who want to read romance.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, they know how to do it. They do it extremely well, and they make people who read it believe it. And that is actually a lot harder than I think a lot of people imagine it to be, right? And that's not to say there isn't romantic elements in other stories, but it's not. Like, there might be a romance in this story. I'm not sure yet, but I think there might be. If there is, it's going to be a small part of what is actually, a bigger story. And that's a very big, realization, right?
Well, in the next book I have coming out is in a completely different world. But I'm going to get back to Barrett and his fun. Part of that is going to be in how he deals with his girlfriend, who has he moved from the city where most of his family is, to set up his financial analyst business, and assassinations and whatnot.
What other enterprises he's working on at the time?
But he meets a very nice young lady, and they're really getting along well together, and she's actually moved out to the city he lives in to finish university. She's going to be around all summer, and he's going to basically hire her to help. She's doing an accounting degree to help crunch numbers, but she's going to be around all the time in the summer. She's going to be doing his books. So how does he explain the trips out to do these little jobs.
Potential investors. That's how you do that. Potential investors.
Yeah, so
clients, new clients,
and so there's eventually he is going to have to tell her.
Yeah. Especially when she starts calling bullshit on him, which she
is going to, because she's a smart young lady.
Yeah, it's like it's like you're full of shit. It's like, no, I'm not. Then let me come with you. No.
No, dear, you can't come on this one.
I can't come on any of them. And then that's literally, and he's like, shit, what do I do?
One of the jobs he and Carrot take in Alter Egos, they're involved both ways. Barrett is there to, the scenario is there's a corrupt union who's going, well, you're going to sign this contract, Mr. Factory owner, because if you don't, you're not going to see your son again, or he's going to come back in pieces. So, of course, Dad's going to cave. So, Barrett and Carrot have been hired to take out the union officials. Just the corrupt ones, not all of them, so they can't just blow up the building. Barrett gets involved because, Justice gets involved because Barrett comes up with this great plan. So he could take his sweetheart on a visit there because they know him as the financial analyst. And by the way, yes, but we don't mention that other part. And even no one quite knows the connection between them. So, some of the things he might be able to take her on, but others is like, oh no, we're just, scouting locations for a new, we're good. You're staying here and working and manning the phone. But yeah. But that is something I'm going to have to address. So that one may be have more romantic elements than the current one does, because they don't meet until the latter quarter of the book, or third.
Interesting. Okay.
On the other hand, romances have changed a lot since I was reading Harlequins during the summer, because they were the little thin ones, and they were very formulaic.
The compromise in science fiction fantasy, it's got romantic elements, is urban fantasy, and some of them are really good. Like, I like Alana Andrews. She has an amazing, or I should say, they have an amazing voice.
Yeah.
The characters are by and large very believable. Right? I mean, there is certain formulaic parts to it, but where the books really excel is you like Kate, you like Huron. They feel like real people, even though, I mean, they're not. But I mean, they feel there's a certain, you can tell, because since they're a husband and wife team, they get relationships very, very well, and then it really translates in their books, and it's really, really good stuff.
Well, one of the series I'm working on is an urban fantasy, technically, because there are people who can shapeshift. There are cougars, there are wolves, and there are lions. And it does not, it's not the full moon. It is not, they have been bitten by somebody else. It's genetic, they think. And fun and games happen, but the main character in there, Ethan, really has no clue in the beginning. All of a sudden, he's, he thinks his parents and younger brother are dead in an explosion in a house fire. And when in the foster system, he does not have a good time. And when he's 14, his hand turns into a paw. Just a hand. He faints. And then other things happen, but that's up to 3 books right now.
Oh, wow.
Of his. I like to write an entire sequence. If I know that he's starting here and he's ending up there, and I'll usually start, thinking, oh, I can do this all in one book, and it's like, no. It's like, okay, no, there's all of this other stuff, and then these people, and 3 books. But I'd rather write all of them at once, or have them all finished before I put out part 1, because what if, when I get to part 3, I go, do 1, out. Part 2, out. Part 3. Oh shit, there was something I should have mentioned in part 1.
Well, see, and for me, I tend to, like, I've done one series, and I didn't write it all at once. I wrote 1, and I was like, I'm not sure I got another one in me. Sure enough, I did. 2, and then the last one's like, okay, I have to wrap this up. And I knew how I was going to, I knew most of how I was going to wrap it up. There was a couple questions in my head, but nothing, but it's like, okay, relatively, like, but again, I knew. This one I'm currently working on, there is potential for more, but my idea on this is, okay, I treat all my books like this. I have one shot to make an impression. Mm-hmm. There is more story. I can see it, like the Cloud Diver, the draft you read of that. Yeah. Lot more story, lot more. But the first book, right? It's self-contained. It's done. I get the basic gist of this world out there, and then, do I have a sequel? Yes. Do I have another? Do I know where this all goes? Yes. However, right? I'm gonna treat it like one and done. I'm gonna see how it does. Then, if it does well, I know I'm going to do it 2. I know I'm going to do it 3. I know I'm going to do it 4. No, all right, but it's like, let's do 1. Let's see how it works out.
Run it up the flagpole and see who salutes.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. That's pretty much the goal. And then see if there's demand for more. If there's demand for more, because it's like, let's play, right? And that's kind of thing. Like, it's weird. Like, for me, it's just like, because I could write it all at once, but again, this is where me and you are the opposite, is that you have a ton of ideas and you get distracted right before you get distracted. I can focus on one idea, but when I'm done, that kernel, I gotta do something else for variety. And then I may go back to this, because I know I'm doing a Cloud Diver 2. I know for sure I'm doing a Cloud Diver 2. Now, whether I do a 3, I'm not so sure, but I know I'm doing a 2, right? And but this one's coming out first. Then I go back. Then I go into Cloud Diver. Then I go into Cloud Diver 2, and then after that, maybe I do the other story that's in my head. Maybe I don't, right?
Well, part of why I think I have so much on the hard drive was because I wasn't as focused on my writing and actually finishing and getting stuff out earlier. I actually have a 3-book series that's, well, I guess again technically urban fantasy or occult fantasy, set in the 1980s, because that's when I wrote it, about secret societies and drug lords and all kinds of stuff. And there's three books in there, but again, the possibility of some other stories. What I tended to do is, I'll get the idea. I have what I call a bits file. So I'll open up a document, and once bits 3 gets full, now okay, well, that's now 50 pages. I'll just start a new one, and then I'll put down those little ideas, those weird ass dreams, and sometimes I'll start developing the story in there. And this is looking like it needs to come out, and start its own page, its own document. And I did that for probably over 20 years. So.
Okay. I have to ask.
That's why I've got all of this.
I gotta ask this. What changed? What 2 years ago said to you, I gotta get up and put this stuff out there?
Possibly the silver hair kind of finally went, look, I'm retired mostly. I have been writing for all these years. I'm going to, put my stuff out. I did have some earlier publications, short fiction, but I never quite got the chutzpah or whatever to go, no, damn it, I'm going to publish. I'm going to finish. I'm going to get this stuff out there, and I am going to see if other people like it. It's kind of like that imposter syndrome a bit. Like, well, I'm not really a writer because I people won't like it. And then when you put it out and you get like 5-star reviews on Amazon for Alter Egos, I was like, is that me? Sometimes I'll go back and, when my brain is kind of going, blah, 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 blah. It does that occasionally, especially after When Words Collide. What I'll do is just go and open up an old story, an old file, and I'll read it. And sometimes I go, Jen, that's good, but I don't remember writing it.
Yeah.
So there's that. Just, it's time to shit, piss, or get off the pot.
Yeah. No. And yeah. No. I. For me, it happened like in Arizona. In Arizona, I nearly died, and your mortality kind of puts some things in perspective.
Yeah.
Like one thing I learned about me was like what was important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write stuff. I'm going to finish as much stuff. And I did a comic, and I accidentally wrote an epic poetry series, But see, for me, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go out there. I'm gonna put it out there. I don't care. Like I recognized, I learned a long time ago that you'd have the only things you can control are what you do and what you don't do, and hopefully you don't defeat yourself in the process. That's it. That's my goal. If I don't beat myself, right, and I put it out there, it will hit the right audiences at the right time. And then and where I get the imposter syndrome is when they come to me in person and tell me how much they like my stuff. That's what gets me.
Well, at When Words Collide, somebody came up to me and went, okay, where was your book on this table? I wanted to buy it. And I'm like, okay, it's this one. You're great. Here's the money. I want you to sign it now. And it's like, okay.
Isn't that cool?
Especially when doing signings in the Indigos and such. It's nice when you know people and they come and they buy your book and you're like, okay, yeah, they know me, so that's why they're buying the book. When some random person goes, I really like this idea, I'm buying the book, it's like, okay, you like the book.
Yeah, no, for me,
the sales outside of family and friends.
Oh,
those are like, okay.
I learned how to do that in Phoenix. Like Phoenix is where I learned to deal with that. It's when they come to you personally after I read your book and I really, really liked it. It's validating on the one hand. It's like, but who is this person you're talking to? Oh wait, it's me. Okay.
Yeah. Or they go, you're sort of like, is it? They're really looking at somebody behind me.
Yeah.
But no, they're talking to me.
Well, but kudos to you, and I hope you continue finding success.
And I've got another story coming out. It's actually an audio podcast. Manawaker Studios. There's a story coming out there sometime, probably this fall. I don't have an exact date.
Audio is a cool format.
Yeah, they actually have actors to do the things, and it's actually a science fiction story based on and again, that's another little world universe that I write in. Earth has a series of stations going out to the where we basically connect to the spiral arm, and then there are colonies and whatnot out further, and Epsilon Station is the last one, and there's weird shit that happens, and this one is about a group of colonists heading out, and it's the Church of Elvis. All of the men, the adult men, are they've had body sculpts done, so they look like Elvis.
So, so I have the song Burning Love in my head right now. Thank you. Thank you very much for that.
But, and that's a nice little world to write in.
Oh, sure.
It's the sort of like, it's Babylon 5. It's the Star Trek set on the station. What weird ass shit comes through, and what do the people who work there have to deal with?
And I can only imagine, because in my real life I see some strange stuff all the time.
In not this year's, in last year's In Places Between, the story I got into that one was about a smuggling operation, again set on Epsilon Station. Somebody is smuggling people out to the colonies to get around the huge number of colony fees as pets. It was a quotation around pets.
Yeah,
exporting mammals.
You just remind me of my first ever date. It's okay. I'm sure when you listen to ask them what the hell I'm in there, but it's okay.
That was one of the stories in there. There are some others, and it's eventually I'll collect them all into a little collection. Probably going to need 6 or 7 more. But then again, collections are hard to sell.
Yeah.
So it may never be a print book, but it will probably be an ebook. Just an ebook. Maybe get a couple made. Just.
You should do some for like conventions, because here's the thing about, like, I enjoy like feeling a book, like a physical book. Yeah. And just for the purposes of sheer defacement, right? You have a short collection that's exclusively available at this convention. You're here right now, right? Yeah. Leah Patrick is right here right now with her awesome short story collection you cannot get anywhere else. Yeah. It's my inner marketing thing kind of working out.
Right? Rather than trying to get them into every Chapters or Indigo or whatever. Just mainly the ebook market.
Ebooks. Any apps that do kind of serialized apps, that'd be something I would consider with you. Because the cool thing about we live in an era where the phone is our medium. It is our medium. So guess what? You know what? Phones like short bursts, short stories. Novellas are the ideal in a lot of ways today, because you want something with some meat to it. But you don't always have the time to go into a full novel, especially if you're on a train, a bus, driving to work, whatever. But you do have time to listen to a novella or read a novella on the train. Like you get a decent read, your brain's a nice exercise, and then you go to whatever it is you got to do next.
Short fiction works really well for that. My phone I use as a phone. Although I do also take pictures with it, but I calls and texts and whatnot, because a lot of times I'm near a computer, so I can read things on there or whatnot. The whole idea of the audio files thing is also another thing where a lot of people want the audiobook version.
Yep.
And there's issues in the production and whatnot of that because of how it's set up.
Yeah.
But again,
I'm going to recommend a podcast to you. That's not mine. Sage and Savant. Mm-hmm. Look it up. It's a really good. They ended up getting a deal from Edge based on what they did with the podcast. That would be a model. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Planet may be a little better than how they started.
Yeah.
But because I speak from experience when I say that accents tend to happen. Good accents, mind you, but accents do tend to happen. You have to go through a learning curve. But it's not.
Well, it's like learning to do everything.
Yeah.
What the hell am I doing? Oh, I didn't know I had to do that.
Which leads to my motto in life: I never let not knowing what I'm doing stop me, because it's a very important.
Well, perfect is the enemy of good.
Yep.
Is it good enough?
Perfect's just an enemy. Period. The more I realize.
To make it perfect, could take 5 years. Where if good enough, you get started and you're so much further ahead when you.
Well, I've asked this on another podcast, and it's not perfection that should be the goal of any artist. The goal should be progression. Is the work I'm doing now better than what I've done previously? Most of the time, it's yes. So I'm progressing, I'm growing and stuff. Sometimes it's no. Sometimes it's on me. Sometimes it's a failure. But the point is, I'm struggling, I'm growing, and I'm doing. If I was going for perfect, I never would have gotten off episode 1 of this series, of this podcast, ever.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think, yeah, the older / wiser, we're going to be very quotation mark on the wiser part, I get, the more I realize that I don't want perfect. I would rather just be, can I do it better than what I did? Is it the best I can do at this moment in time? If the answer is yes, that's it. The next project, whatever that next project is, that's where I work to get better.
And that was part 1 of my conversation with Lee F. Patrick. Part 2 will be up very shortly. I'm just going to say a quick thanks to Lee for her time. She'll be back real soon. This has been another episode of Just Josh, and I want to thank everybody who listened to it. You can do a bunch of different things to support the podcast. For starters, you can subscribe to it at Podomatic, iTunes, or any other app in which you can listen to the podcast. Do so. Leave a review. If you like the show, great. If you don't like it, don't tell anybody. I'll understand. Trust me. Beyond that, Mirabelle Publishing has a sale on my books, mirabellepublishing.com. The Watcher, Storm Dancer, Wandering God are 50% off this month only at mirabelle.com. You can still get my books through Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, or anywhere books are sold, brick and mortar or you can get them there. I have a YouTube channel, Joshua Pentellaresco. You can definitely hear past episodes there that are not here now. Above all else, though, thanks very much for listening. Stay inspired out there. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And hopefully, I'll see you guys all next time.
Josh.